Well, welcome to Kramer Talk. We got a great day today, and just to kind of pretense everything, this is not about product announcements. The focus, it's about people. It's the experiences, the lessons learned, the people showing us industry insights, how that helps organizations to navigate change and make better business decisions. Today, I have really a great pleasure to introduce Anirban Ghoshal. He joins Kramer Talk. He's an award winning journalist covering enterprise technology, cloud, data, AI for CIO.com, InfoWorld, Computerworld, Network World. He just had a baby. So, everybody give him a little round of applause. How we doing today, sir?
Uh, First of all, thank you so much, Robert, for inviting me to the show. Yeah, and I'm doing good. Yeah, you already know that having a baby is tough. So yeah, we're getting there.
So, how's it going for what the tell us a little bit about the baby, how your wife's doing. The baby's how old? A couple months now?
The baby's about 1.5 months old. He's due for his vaccinations tomorrow. So we are getting geared up. Wife is doing good, but we're both a bit tired trying to juggle him between jobs and household chores. So yeah, I mean, he's keeping us excited, tired, hopeful. A lot of the emotions, combined together. So
It's crazy what a child will do to a family, bringing the families together. Probably the grandparents are just enamored with the bright smile and eyes of your baby, and I think it's just what a gift that you guys have. I'm really excited for you.
thank you so much.
So, just to kind of want to talk a little bit about you and how you got into technology journalism, because I think it's a little different than, you know, talking about news, weather, politics and things of that nature. So what originally attracted you to covering enterprise software and infrastructure? Because it's not the normal, it's more complex. Your brain has to want to learn about this type of technologies that you're reporting on and talking about, and your aptitude for understanding the technologies has to be way into that as well. So tell me a little bit about that.
Well, give me a little bit of. I want to set this up a little. Why? So, uh, you know, I was always interested in technology. I did not know as a young child that I would become a journalist, but I was always interested in technology, and it so happened, in India, um, my introduction to technology as such was through these magazines that we had, Digit, PC Mag, one of those publications that I really work for today, Macworld, right? Those were the magazines, and they were very hard to get hold of, right? So, I had to go to a library to get hold of them, and I would be amazed at the pictures that it had. And I was drawn towards the gaming pages
Hmm.
of those particular magazines. And then one fine day, I got a computer at my home, and you know, my a neighbor who's much senior than me came and installed a game at my computer, and I saw him playing it, and I was amazed that what is inside this box. How are the characters or the cards doing things, and I really wanted to understand it, and I kept on reading. You also have the school curriculum alongside it, so naturally I started, it just felt very natural, and it came. I understood without giving it any effort, right? And so then the conversation changed to, you know oh wait, so now you have, now these games are driven by GPUs. So now the next question was, what are GPUs, what are chips, why are they powerful, what makes them powerful, what's cache memory, and all of that. And that slowly sort of, I really wanted to, write about Windows, these machines, these gadgets, and that's essentially when I went to J school. I was like, if I want to do journalism, then what's better than combining my passion for technology and journalism, the trade craft that I'm learning. So that's that. And I did cover a fair bit of um, you know B2C technology, right? Like gadgets, launches of mobile phones, etc., etc. But there came a point in 2016 when the market got really saturated with people like us. You had lots of bloggers coming in, you had influencers coming in, right? And I started feeling that, hey, we are all doing the same thing, and who, as a reader, who do you trust?
Right.
Like, I am saying that the Apple iPhone is great. Somebody is saying the Samsung phone is the best. But what's the credibility? And it became a little too much for my senses because, you know, like every single day you had like one phone launch, right? And then the segmentation, right? You Previously it was like an entry level smartphone and then you had a budget smartphone, and then you have the ultra luxury smartphone. But then each of these three segments started breaking up into three of their own segments,
Yep.
right? So it became a lot, and then I was like, well, here is one thing I have not tried yet, I have not learned yet, which is B2B, tech journalism. And I was, and not lot many people in India were doing that. So I got genuinely interested in it. I got the opportunity through Newscorp VC Circle to sort of go straight away into it deeply, and that's when I took it. That was my introduction into covering AWS, Google, IBM of the world, right?
Yep.
And again, it felt natural to me. I did not have to put in too much of an effort to understand what these products, these companies were bringing in, how it was very easy for me to connect the dots as to how these products would impact businesses or how it would help them. So that has been. The long answer short is it was just easy for me.
Well, and that's interesting because you know, ERP, databases, data platforms, AI, cloud, they're not easy to learn. So if you learn it from the top down, just the features and capabilities, you don't understand the nuts and bolts of why, um, of what makes them up. And that's what you learned. You understood what it takes to buy those solutions, to use those solutions, the differentiators, what outcomes, which is a key component. I'm not sure if I've told you this, but my father owned in the ERP business when I was growing up, and I actually worked for him for about 8, 9 years. It was like for chemical distributors and manufacturers, and I learned it from the ground up. So now when I talk about it, I understand the nuts and bolts versus features and capabilities because the features and capabilities change so much. Understanding the core components is what's key. So going back to what you just said, what keeps you excited about the industry? So you go from the PCs, you go from business to consumer. Now you're B2B. What do you aspire to learn and excited about between ERP, databases, data platforms, AI, and cloud? I mean, AI is everywhere, right? We know that, but it's a tool for all the other things that I just mentioned.
I think I'll just go back to your previous question a bit, and I was very, very lucky to have people such as yourself and other analysts, and as well as my editors who've
Thank
been
you.
in this, business for over 30 years to hold my hand. Whenever I had a theory, I could ask them, right?
That's
And,
nice.
and, a lot of it was self-taught as well. Like,
Yep.
I would ask my editor that, hey, I don't understand the difference between what an OLAP and an OLTP is, right? And he would give me like a one line answer, which was not satisfactory for me. So what I did was I went back to LinkedIn Learning, which is still free for our reporters in our company, and I did like 5 courses on databases to understand and get credentials, because if I don't understand the technology, I can't ask you the hard questions, I can't ask the
Correct.
companies the hard questions. Now, coming back to what you asked me about, what keeps me excited, every year there comes something. Like, if you talk about the recent past, generative AI came along, right, and it changed everything. It
Yep.
changed the stack. I call it complicating the stack, right? So now that you have a complicated stack, the journey in terms of exploring how that changes the inner workings of that particular software, and how that connects to what is the outcome for a CIO or an enterprise, is what makes you excited, right? I mean,
Yeah.
this story that SAP, I think, made famous, right? Hey, here is a tire company. They used to sell tires. Well, no longer they'll sell tires. They'll now start selling kilometers. That's the best analogy that has stuck with me for years, because that's the simplest way to drive a marketing narrative in terms of having a product like SAP, right?
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, I mean that's what keeps me excited. Um, Unlearning and learning how the stack gets complicated and then gets simplified.
So just kind of skipping ahead a little bit because we've covered a few of the topics already, but you know, AI has made a big difference. You just mentioned that, and we all know that. I do think AI is more of a tool than a necessarily a product. So it's a tool that is critical to performance, right? But there's some things behind it, prerequisites that are required for it to be successful, right? We've talked about that. How has the conversation around cloud data and ERP changed since AI has arrived? And meaning, like, what is are companies is excited about it as the vendors are, meaning the customers, the CIOs that you talk to, because they have a lot that they need to do to be ready for it or trusting it to let it loose in many ways within their company. Because the main thing I always tell vendors is the customers will not stand for going backwards too far or to hurt their bottom line to implement things that won't produce an ROI from an AI perspective.
So, Robert, couple of things. One is, I think before sort of generative AI or AI arrived, I think everybody was talking about cloud. Be it ERP, be it ITSM. The core focus was modernization of workloads, right? And another key phrase was moving to the cloud, right? And then sort of this secondary layer of digital transformation, or digital twins, etc., came along. But the core focus remained was workload modernization,
Mhm.
right? But I think with AI coming along, I think AI has replaced that layer for cloud. Now cloud is one stack lower, right? I think it has amplified what I think all the CIOs have talked about during the modernization era, which is the importance of data and data management. And I think, to your specific question, the three components that you mentioned, cloud, ERP, and data, AI has amplified their importance and showed us that you need to make these a composite set, with each behaving at its best to be
Mhm.
able to generate the maximum output,
Mhm.
of an AI system. So, ERP, systems of record, used to provide the contextual intelligence that so many vendors seem to be talking about these days, right? Data and data readiness is where the actual fuel for AI resides. And of course, cloud is now the underlying infrastructure where you need the runtime, or you need the training power, or you need the inference power to be able to have an actual AI system running, right? So I think, did I answer your question, by the way?
Yeah, I'm actually amazed how far you've come since, learning the PC market and now the enterprise market, and how you're able to put everything together. It's fascinating that you understand everything that's going on and how well adverse you are to where we're going. So absolutely. So, and that leads me to my next question: what technology trends do you think receive too much attention today, and why? Me or ones that might not get enough attention? Because one of the things that I believe with everything you just said is that's probably almost as important as the cloud, the data, and ERP and Gen AI is security. Because I think that the governance around that is the biggest issue because the systems cannot be infiltrated at any cost, and although they do.
Yeah, absolutely. I write little less about security, so sometimes it sort of skips my mind. But I think when you talk to any CIO, they'll come back and say that enterprise readiness in terms of data readiness or data management, and then security combined with observability and governance are their top three priorities when it comes to deploying anything at scale, remotely related to AI, right? So that but when you ask me about what has received too much importance or spotlight, I think it has to do with how the whole business and the investment stuff works behind these huge companies, right? I think the model themselves. I
Yep.
think this rat race to to generating or to building the next big model, right, is what has been receiving too much importance, and that really, if you talk to a CIO, they don't care about it.
Yep.
In a critical workload, they're not worried about, you know if Gemini, if Gemini is better than ChatGPT or ChatGPT is better than Gemini, because they are worried about, will it shouldn't hallucinate with the contextual information that I have, running at the back end, right? And then there is latency, right? Um, right.
Well,
So
what are the CIOs worried about from your
I
perspective?
think I think the CIOs are worried about costs, because the more power you put behind a model, and if it becomes large in size, then your tokens consumption increase,
Yep.
or your latency increases, right? So I think I think CIOs are only looking at use cases and models, that can be tied to a measurable business outcome, or that can result in direct increase in productivity, faster go to market, or faster decision making. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense for them.
Yeah, well said. I think the outcome is the biggest key that you said, or one of the keys, because of the fact that I think that how you get to that outcome is they're okay with if you have different routes, but at the same time, they're looking for that outcome because they're growing their business. So how what can help them? And if you look at that and you think about what the market trends are, and we're looking 3 to 5 years ahead, where or what do you see compared to today that enterprise software will be at? So, do we feel it's going to be more of an event-driven systems from an ERP perspective? Do you think that more of a platform base with all the some of the vendors with ecosystems around that? Where do you see things in 3 to 5 years?
I think a couple of things are really fascinating. Right? I think um, we're already seeing somebody like a Salesforce move from at least at the back end, move from a whole UI to a whole MCP driven outlook, wherein, it doesn't disappear, but it's all there, but you're accessing it through different sort of endpoints, or Claude, or whichever coding assistant you want to use, or Visual Studio Code, right? um, uh, I think that's one fascinating change. But I think the other change that is coming is not just ERP, any software. The whole UI is changing.
Yep.
People are not accessing, wizards or dashboards or screens. They are accessing a conversational interface, which is the front end, and in the back end you have a multi-agent system. Which, so, again, that brings me to one of my favorite analogies. Is what Microsoft has been saying, in closed doors, is that their whole office outlook is going to change, right? Like, you will
Yes.
have one Clippy or one Copilot, and depending on what you say, it will spin up a Microsoft Word, it will spin up a Microsoft Excel or a PowerPoint as necessary, right? Or you might have a project which involves all three, right? For example, um, planning KramerTALK, the next
Yep.
episode of KramerTALK, right? So, I think that's where it's headed. But again,
I agree.
but I still don't think that humans will be cut out of the loop, though, even
Yes.
if you have even if you have like a multi-agent system that's routing requests and calling tools and doing all of that, you would still need a human in the loop to ratify the response,
Agreed.
and make sure that it is not running haywire. I think maybe after 10 years you would not need a human, but in the next 3 to 5 years, I think the humans are still going to be around.
Well, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Industry 4.0, which is smart factory, Industry 5.0, which is a collaboration of humans and robots, which we're not there, but we're close. And then 6.0 is an autonomous enterprise. And I think we're pretty, at least 5 years away from that. But if you were advising a CIO of making AI investment today, what would be your top advice?
Two simple lines: don't burn your hands again, and not every pill fits you. You know, you need to look at what fits you.
Yeah.
Don't run after every shiny new tool or service that promises the world to you. You guys are already under pressure trying to justify the ROI, that you've already spent, right? So go deep, do more pilots if necessary. Don't and ask the hard questions before deploying anything at scale. Because one of the other things that another thing that is very important that is changing is also the billing or the consumption, right?
Yeah.
So if if even if you're very close to deploying something agentic, then you need to ask, you know, how are you going to be built? What constitutes a fair usage, right? So um, all those things, I think CIOs already know about them,
Yeah.
and they have good advisors also, right? But that would be my top advice: don't run after everything. See what fits you.
So, lastly, we'll kind of wrap things up. You've written so many great articles, and I've had the honor of being quoted in a few of them. And not that you would say your best one has myself in it, because that's not the goal here. What would you say your best article that you're so happy with, that whether it was 3 years ago or was 2 weeks ago? Which one would you hang your hat on as your number one?
See, I can't. I mean, they're all my babies, right? I can't put one baby up before the other. But obviously, as a journalist, um, you have something called the satisfaction quotient, right? It doesn't matter how many page views it has got. It doesn't matter, if your editor said "good job," or such as such as yourself said, "Hey, Anirban, that was a nice article." It's also about your own satisfaction.
Yep.
And I think if I were to call out anything in the recent past, um, I think we had a couple of articles written when Salesforce was launching Agentforce. I think explaining what Agentforce is, explaining what how it works really, uh, and what could have been the pitfalls for CIOs. Um, is are, a couple of those would be the ones I would be more happy about.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for joining Kramer Talk. I really appreciate it. I'm really excited to hear more about your son growing up, and that's really just fantastic. And everybody being healthy. Have a great rest of the week on Ron. Robert Kramer Talk. We'll see you next time.